All right, we're on live, so watch what you say. Okay, so this isn't work. That's good because it doesn't get in front of me too well anyway. All right, that's even better. All right, all right, I'm ready. I feel better now. There's always something goes wrong with this kind of stuff, man. Live radio. So most people do a podcast, they pre-record it. Live radio is always something going on, which makes it fun. That's why I do it. All right, let's get some Chrome out. Intro.
Playlist is ready.
Huh?
The playlist is ready.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Sure.
This is Alicia, right?
Yep.
I really love how she keeps her relationship out of the public. It just kills me how the media like feels the need to tell us who Kim Kardashian is dating every week. Every week. It's like, oh, today she's dating. I'm like, so what? So what, man? Let her have a fucking life and leave it alone. I understand breaking up with Kanye West, that's news, but after that, just leave it alone. Today they went on a date just alike. You know what it is? It's 24-hour news. That's what it is. They got to fill it. In your days, it was to be like, 6 o'clock news. We'll put everything in 6 o'clock. That's it. Only the important stuff goes in. Now they have to fill in 24 hours. Yeah. So everything becomes news now. And it's just absurd the things we have to hear about to get real news here. And the public, the local news is the worst. Oh, today a dog died. And I'm like, I was in Missouri and they were like, oh, we had another deer across the street today. Like, it's all about advertising now. Local news, that is. Because they can't afford reporters. Second, 3 seconds. Okay, we are legitimately ready. We're after this song? Is it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right.
A minute.
Put the song up, huh?
12 seconds.
She's supposed to call at 10:05. She's usually right on time.
Okay.
We have one caller. I'm gonna get her out the way. Let her talk about this charity. Well, our show like sponsors a charity that we always promote. We have a commercial for them. It's called Team Vienna for SUDC awareness. It's about sudden infant death syndrome. I lost an infant. This woman, she lost an infant, and so I support her charity. She's doing a movie now. She's always really active, so I try to support her charity whenever I can because it's such a good one. She's a nice girl.
Big deal. Here we go.
All right. I have a little script I usually do in the beginning, but by the second segment, we're being heavy. Uh, Make sure you turn it up a little bit, my friend. We are recording. All right. Okay. All right. This is where it all begins. Greetings to all of you this fine morning. Thank you for joining me in the land of the living once again, my friends. We know that this is a good day. We know this is a good day, particularly because God has given us so much news, so much to talk about. It's like the day was made for talkers. And talkers are nothing without listeners. So we are grateful for the gift of life to you listeners as well, if only for one more day. And I just got to say, I always say that when I pray over a meal. I always say that. I say thanks to the Most High for feeding me one more time. I never take for granted that I'll eat again, but I plan to. By the way, happy Thanksgiving to you all, and save your hate mail. Save your hate mail. I am not ignorant of the symbolism and the history surrounding Thanksgiving. I have many friends who will not celebrate a holiday with such horrible origins. To be truthful, it's fair to say that the indigenous people of America were never safe around the European settlers who colonized this land. And I must admit that I am not the biggest traditionalist myself, but everyone takes the day off for Thanksgiving. So my hope in the midst of this holiday is that many of you will be able to connect with your family, whether it be by blood or by choice. My point is this: we cannot forget that as humans, we all need connection with other humans to feel like we are in a safe place. And safety is a theme I'm getting at today, my friends. Stay with me as I give you stories of safety. By the way, I'm not trying to say that every day is going to be easy. Every day is not supposed to be easy. But today will be easier for us, at least in Radio Land, because today is special. It is special due to all these topics we have to discuss. We just had a huge verdict in that Rittenhouse trial yesterday. We can get in trouble with that. Pretty soon we will have an Ahmaud Arbery verdict. Build Back Better just passed. Biden is on the move to pass his new social spending bill, and we'll get to all of that. But the day is also special due to the special guest we have on the show with us today, sitting next to me. I'll give you more details in a few. But if you didn't know by now, my name is Jamal. You can call me Steve Bannon if Steve Bannon was black. If Steve Bannon was black and Steve Bannon wasn't crazy, you can call me Steve Bannon. And I'll be your entertainment for this hour. And before I introduce my very special studio guest, I need to bring in another friend, but she hasn't called in yet. So, Denise, when you get the chance, call in. She is a wonderful friend of the Jamal Show. Dr. Denise Wanderler will be on the phone soon. And let me just tell you a little bit about her. She runs the Jamal Show's favorite charity, which is Team Vienna, for SUDC awareness. Excuse me. Dr. Denise and I are part of a club that nobody wants to join. That club of parents who have lost young children for unexplained reasons. I lost my son Simon a few years ago to sudden infant death syndrome, and she lost her little Vienna to SUDC, which is sudden unexplained death in childhood. And she and I have been able to bond over these sad events. So we at the Jamal Show show support for this non-for-profit, and we always will. After all, Dr. Denise does the work that I'm not strong enough to do, and she does it in the name of all lost children. So we're going to wait for her to call in. In the meanwhile, I just want to assure you the name of the show is Safety, and I want to assure you that as long as you hear my voice, you will be safe from nonsense. Now, I won't keep you waiting any longer. As I said before, I do have a very special guest with me, and his name is Attorney John Rose. Okay? Let me tell you something about him. Oh, Attorney John Rose, he's just like me, except that he's experienced and wise. So he's just like me, except that he's experienced and wise. And I'll go ahead and turn off this applause. And that means that he's gonna have a lot to add to today's discussion. Oh, by the way, he's also not broke, if you want a real distinction between him and I. You would be smart to feel safe around Attorney John Rose. Why do I say that? Well, let me give you a little background about this fantastic human being sitting next to me at WKND Studios. First of all, Attorney Rose is a black man who is 81 years old. And you'll excuse me if I think that right there deserves some serious applause. I mean, you got to be like God's special person to be a black man and live till 81. With all the crooked police and salty food and diabetes and cancer and baby mamas, everything there's out there, you're lucky to live past 60 as a black man these days. One black guy I hear was almost killed yesterday at 41 years old. Julius Jones almost got killed with the death penalty. Then, by some tremendous, amazing miracle, Governor Stitt of Oklahoma did the unexpected thing and gave Julius Jones clemency. That was unexpected for a Republican to act like they care about any other people, and I was shocked. I thought Julius Jones was a dead man. Republicans love executing people for political points. But back to my point. Whatever kills black men efficiently, America always has lots of it laying around. Cheap, even free sometimes. There's nothing but traps out here for the black man. So applause to you, Attorney Rose, for living till 81. And we're gonna take a break right now and let Denise come in and speak for a minute. Is that her? All right, bring Denise on. Denise, Dr. Denise, it's so great to hear from you. Thanks for calling in. What do you have for us today? Hi, how you doing? I can't. Go
Hi,
ahead.
everybody. I'm Dr. Denise Wunderler, and I wanted to thank you, Jamal, the bishop, and all the listeners out there who've been such an amazing support system for our family and our 501c3 nonprofit, Team Vienna for STDC awareness. I wanted to let you know that there's a lot of big things that happened this last year, and it's all thanks to all of you with your support. First of all, I want to thank Jamal for making our nonprofit the nonprofit of the year for his radio show. So thanks so much for that. Vienna died actually 4 years ago Friday, so we've been looking back a lot on that. And
You have my condolences again. You have my condolences again. Go ahead.
excuse me.
You have my condolences again. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. Thank you, Jamal. Thank you. But as you know, Jamal, with losing your little guy Simon, for you 2.5 years ago, for us it's been 4 years. For our little girl, almost 3, who essentially fell asleep watching TV and then never woke up. And then this is now known as sudden unexplained death in childhood, or SUDC. But there's no explanation for why these kids are passing away in their sleep. 1 to 18 years old, after thorough investigation, autopsy, medical record review, there's still no explanation for these deaths. For us, it's been 4 years, and, I think, Jamal, you may feel the same, where, it seems like forever ago at the same time, it feels like it happened yesterday at the same time. So we're thankful for all the support of our nonprofit. So to recap briefly, so we've really extended our grand round presentations to medical staff, coast to coast and even internationally. So that's been fantastic. And getting curriculum materials regarding SUDC into medical schools. And this last year, academic year, 2020 to 2021, was the first year of that. So we're so thankful for these medical schools embracing these materials to educate their students about this. Before this time, before now, it was never in the curriculum at any level.
That's amazing. That's amazing that you were able to accomplish that. I know it's very hard to get it into institutional academics and stuff. So I also hear you're doing a movie. Is that correct?
Well, still in negotiations, but it's possible that we could have eventually a documentary. That's in the very early stages now. So, but we hopefully we'll get that done. But still in the early planning stages. So we'll see.
Well, you've been around for 12 years now. Congratulations, and I know you've accomplished a lot. Before you go, I just want to make sure people know how to get in contact with your organization, because it's such a wonderful organization, and you have all these materials out to let people know about things. How can people find out about this stuff? Like, and if you don't mind, just saying a little bit about SUDC so people understand what it really is.
Yeah, thank you. So our website is www.vienna, Vienna.team, TEAM. So Vienna.team. And SUDC is the category of death, sudden unexplained death in childhood of kids 1 to 18 years old, where after a thorough investigation, medical record review, and death investigation, there's still no explanation for these deaths. And Vienna was one of these children this happened to. And so there's no warning for this to happen. Vienna is a healthy child, as all these other kids are healthy. They go to sleep one night, which is a typical story, and then they don't wake up in the morning. For us, it was Vienna fell asleep watching TV, and then
Never woke
breathing.
Up. Right. So people, I need you to check out this charity and support. You always take donations. You are 501c3. So I implore you to support this charity. They have great T-shirts. They have a lot of events. Is there anything coming up, Denise, before we go?
So, well, we always have Vienna Day of International SUDC Awareness, which will be the 5th annual, coming up in May. It's always the Saturday after Mother's Day. That's where people from around the world support, the nonprofit, wearing T-shirts and remembering Vienna. And we've hit 7 continents the last 3 years, which has been really incredible. And hopefully we'll also be able to do another fundraiser for Vienna's birthday, which is in January, where last year we donated over $16,000 to Robert's program at Boston Children's Hospital to push forward their, specifically the genetic piece of this medical mystery. And so, we're thankful that you, Jamal, that you all are involved with the research study. as well as us and some of the other families, because the research study is actually on what's called, it's actually SIDS and SUDC, which is collectively is known as SUDP, sudden unexpected death in pediatrics.
Right.
So we're thankful for Dr. Goldstein and his whole team there. Really wonderful people, so dedicated and motivated to really get answers as we are, to really try to figure out what's going on with all these kids, with babies and with the elder kids as well.
All right, Denise, we're going to go ahead and let you go, but I have an idea. Maybe we can run some kind of telethon here next year or something like that. We'll probably go ahead and be supporting your charity for another year just because we want to. So thanks for coming on. You'll be on again, I'm sure. Keep up the good work. Thanks for fighting for all of our children. We really appreciate it. Have a beautiful day, Denise. We'll be talking soon.
Much, Jamal. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
All right. All right, so I'm a man in sad need of a transition, but I'll just go ahead and start from where I was. Whatever kills black men efficiently, America always has lots of it laying around. You know, I needed a transition for that one. Cheap, sometimes even free. There's nothing but traps out here for the black man. So applause to Attorney Rose for actually living till 81. I'd love to do the same. But wait, there's more. You must do more than be an 81-year-old black man and make it onto the Jamal Show, even though that's a damn good start. Attorney Rose has also been a lawyer admitted to the CT bar since 1966. Remember that year, Mac? 1966? I don't either. That's before I was born, my friend. Attorney Rose was the first black lawyer in Connecticut history to practice in a law firm larger than 5 lawyers. That was back in 1969, which I'm sure you do remember. He was also the first black partner in a law firm larger than 5 lawyers. That was in 1972, 1 year after I was born. In 2004, Attorney John Rose became the first black corporation counsel in Hartford. If you didn't know, that's the lawyer for the whole city of Hartford. That would be cool enough. But he was also the corporation counsel in New Haven for 5 years. And just for you trust fund babies out there, he was educated in public schools. But he is also an alumni of both Dartmouth undergrad and Yale Law School, which is very hard to get into, by the way, speaking from a lawyer. And by the way, let me also point out that you're also getting 2 generations of black men for the price of one here. The Jamal Show is always good for a bargain. This man is here to help lend my show some legitimacy. We are gearing up to have some really intelligent discussions. So let's all be on our best behavior, okay, Bishop? Okay, I'm really talking to myself, actually. So welcome to the Jamal Show, Attorney Rose. It is really an honor to have you here. Thanks a lot for having that drink or whatever you had that convinced you to be here this morning. We have much to discuss. But before we get into that, I have to get to these chores really quickly. I have to get the show officially started, and I will do that really quickly. Welcome to Saturday, my friends, the very next day of your life. This is the Jamal Show, the place to get intelligent, live and on your favorite podcasting network. My name is Jamal. I'm an information junkie from Harlem, and I'm passing on the fruits of my illness onto you. So if you get the Jamal virus, don't worry, it won't make you cough. But it may help you purchase a loft. As for me, I'm your listener guide, mostly along for the ride, coming straight through the Hartford studios of WKND, and I'm doing that live up until the day when there are no more black pastors to support black families. Did you hear about that, Mr. Black Panther? They don't want no black pastors around. I bet you the people in your congregation want black pastors around. I bet you they do. And that means I'll be around for a long time, folks. On this day, the revolution will be televised on the Jamal Show Facebook page live. So go check it out, folks. You can find that at facebook.com/Jamal Show Radio. I must announce that we have a black pastor in the house. His name is a bishop, and he can accompany me to a trial anytime he wants. Anytime he wants. Hello, Bishop, and lucky for us, Dr. Mack is not in the house today. But he's being replaced by our good friend that I talked about previously, Attorney John Rose. How you feeling today, John?
I'm good.
Sounding alive, sounding alive. Now, while we are on the radio right now on WKND 97.5 FM, you can hear us best while using a live radio app on your phone or laptop like Extreme Mix Radio. Some people use TuneIn. It's been about 2 weeks since you last heard our voices. 2 weeks ago, we talked about hope, and my goal was to leave you with some. As always, today my theme is safety, and I will not put you in danger. How will we pull this off? Well, I always do it by scheming and planning on how to get you all more intelligent. And it isn't easy with Republicans in Congress paying tribute to lies, violence, and death threats as ways to control their members. Here's a question. When's the last time you ever heard a Republican propose a policy that wasn't a lie, a threat of violence, a white grievance, or a tax cut. Please allow me to remind you that neither lies, threats, white grievance, or tax cuts has ever built a bridge, and they never will. Either way, don't laugh, but I am a Connecticut attorney with a new office phone number for the public. That number is 860-200-8874. 860-200-8874. Also, the rumors are true. I am now with the Goddard Law Firm in Hartford, and we do a great job at defending people in criminal court. So if you need our help, we would love to be at your service. Again, that's 860-200-8874. 24 hours a day, call me, let's talk. If you came late to the party, I will remind you that this broadcast will soon be up on every podcast network that ever existed. That statement makes me a liar, but a very handsome one. You can make it all true with your help, so please share the gift of the Jamal Show with a loved one. And by the way, we could use some more reviews on the Jamal Show Facebook page. We need something to balance out all the bad reviews. So please, be nice, okay? Lastly, please know that my views do not represent the views of the station. In fact, I think this station wants to censor me and pull me for all my committee assignments like Paul Gosar and Marjorie Taylor Greene. You may feel the same way, but you got to remember, folks, if you really hate what I have to say, I can understand that. That's why I always tell you to save up all your hatred and tell it to the bishop. He's a man of God and he can handle anything. On the other hand, if you love what you hear, those calls are for me. You can always call us at 860-218-2173. Again, if you love life and this show rocks, ask for Jamal at 860-218-2173. We promise to allow you into our discussion. All you have to do is call. Now, time for a quick break. We're going to get into it with the good attorney John Rose in a minute. I'm going to play this guy again for you. His name is Self-Suffice. He's from Hartford, Connecticut. In fact, he told me he's the Hartford troubadour. That's a big word for you. A new word for you, troubadour. I had no idea what a troubadour is, so he told me what it was. He said it's like being Hartford's official lyricist. Isn't that cool? And his lyrics are great, so that's easy to believe. This song is called Call Me Crazy. It's by a guy called Self-Suffice. If you like it, remember you heard it first here on the Jamal Show, the place to get intelligent. Why don't you groove to this and meet me on the other side of God? How about that?
Knock me off my square. I got
Would you like some water?
gravity on me.
Okay, go ahead. It's right up. The bathroom is right outside the door, on the side of the hall. These guys are good.
Yeah.
This is good stuff, man.
Humanize the evil that we see. Think I'm just a guy in a long time. Strong jaw line, that and they idle time to bring a long line. Personal confidential, living dirty as a cartoon, comedy sexual. Got a horrible mental, let it car full of all the essentials. Flip bars, guitars, and oppressors. So maybe I'm slipping nice in different life. But if I stop and sit and cry, I'll be missing twice. So if I just told the truth, call me crazy. Somebody say, when it seems like I know who got it crazy. If I just told you, would you call me crazy?
The bell said that's the worst thing to call them, right? If they ain't agreeing what was popular, you gonna fight? Gonna try telling them they crazy and they don't say mine? But what if the rest of us know and they found what's hard to find? What we really wanna find, what we really want to find. Pay too much attention to what's telling someone but your mind. Battle with a lover who don't know your mind. What a find, wisdom showing you the future, but your friends caught in time. Hey, they just saying what they seeing on the clock face, but they don't see the battery that make the clock race. That tick-tock, that boom bip, that hip-hop, that spirit of keeping the clock ticking. Regardless of what room that clock moving, the inner voice soothing. People that ain't into it, you wanna say sooner, but got so many pounds of grooves and related can't erase them. Can't mute a human like FaceTime, you gotta face them. Like this, hold on, call me crazy. My life is no time, somebody say.
Intro, I'm just going to break down the background of Rittenhouse, like what happened. He went to another state, and then we'll get into it.
but you call me crazy. I don't know what you want from me. Oh, why you wasting breath trying to talk to me? Then you walking in the deck trying to walk with me. Cause your mother saying that's what it's all for me. I don't wanna waste my time on nothing. Girl, make up your mind, it's all or nothing. Girl, you know it's fine, you ain't gotta be frontin'. I just want my grind to add up to something. So if you ain't stitched up, then I'ma move on. I got a group of girls that love the way I get my groove on. Save them like coupons, book them like coupon, and they go hard.
These guys are good.
Like croutons.
From Hartford too, man.
Girl, yeah, I love that. Still, and again, when you laying it back, you saw then I had to hit you with that. Yeah, everyone know in the summertime, every day you tryna
Promotional poster.
someone that's on your mind, tryna stay that light. Like you ain't paying on the mind all the time, no when you go and sit there on your mind. Yeah, everyone know in the summertime, every day you tryna figure that someone is on
Awesome.
your
Yeah,
mind.
that's him. He's great.
Like you ain't paying on the mind.
We promote the artists that we play. You know him? Oh, yeah, he's around. Hello again, my friends. That song is called Call Me Crazy by Self Suffice. You will agree with me that it's pretty nice. You can find his music, excuse me, coronavirus. You can find his music on Spotify where he has a good following. So check him out. And remember, you heard him here first on the Jamal Show, the place to get intelligent. Moving on. It's definitely great to have you back with us on the Jamal Show on WKND and on podcast. I am Jamal. I don't waste my time living the lives of other people. The cure for my boredom is my curiosity, and there is no cure for my curiosity. I see a lot of rainbows because I don't mind a little rain in my life. And in only 3 words, I can sum up everything that I've ever learned. It goes on. Life. Thanks for being with us today. Look around. You're special just like everybody else, and that means nobody is special, I guess. Let's move on. So today, we are pleased to have with us Attorney John Rose, one of the longest serving black attorneys in the state of Connecticut. And I want to talk a little bit about this verdict we received yesterday from the jury in the trial of Kyle Rittenhouse. I'm sure you've heard of him, right?
Oh, yeah.
You've heard of Kyle Rittenhouse. Let me just give a little background to the listeners who live under a rock. Because he's feeling really safe this morning, Kyle Rittenhouse is a free man. And why is he a free man? Well, let's go back to the story for people who live under a rock. The police shooting of Jacob Blake occurred on August 23rd, 2020 in Kenosha, Wisconsin. A lot different from New York City for good reason. It's like a suburban town. It was a very controversial police shooting because Jacob Blake was unarmed, like most black men, and he took multiple shots to the back. Jacob Blake survived the shooting, but he was paralyzed. As a result of the shooting, there were protests that turned into the Kenosha riots. We might remember those from 2 years ago. Things got so bad at one point that police stations were attacked and burned to the ground. There were solid city blocks where the police just let people protest and riot in a lawless manner for days on end. During this time, a 17-year-old boy named Kyle Rittenhouse saw the violence on TV in the streets of Kenosha, deputized himself, and left his own state of Illinois to go patrol the streets of Kenosha. He brought along an assault rifle, as we do, to protect other people's property without their knowledge or permission. Yes, he was a white boy, if that wasn't clear by now. By the way, he had never been in that location before. He didn't know those streets at all. During his tour of Kenosha, Kyle Rittenhouse was cheered on by police officers who didn't even bother to check the ID of a kid with an assault rifle. All they saw was his white skin, and they figured that he was safe. They assumed he was safe, which is the theme of this show. And we all know they would have treated a black teenager the exact same way, right? They would have treated a black teenager the exact same way in that situation because we know that justice is equal in America, right? Let me move on. While Kyle was patrolling the streets as a fake deputy, he ended up being the only person out of thousands of people carrying guns to actually shoot somebody with one. So he didn't help increase the safety at all. In fact, he shot 3 people and 2 of them died. And as a side note, all of them were white. And they were not more safe out there because of Kyle Rittenhouse, obviously. Rittenhouse was charged with a bunch of charges, including reckless homicide, first-degree intentional homicide, recklessly endangering safety, etc., etc. The charges don't matter as much now, do they? Because the trial of Kyle Rittenhouse just ended. He was acquitted of everything. He walked free. Which is funny because if traveling to another state with a long gun to stand in the middle of a riot isn't reckless, I don't know what is. Why would anybody deliberately put themselves in a place where they have to carry a gun? And by the way, they may have to shoot somebody. Well, I'll tell you my take on this, Tony Rose, because it changed. I can make an argument for guilty and innocent. At first, I was outraged that a kid could go around shooting people in a riot and then claim self-defense. But you know what? After the trial, I realized that these victims actually did attack him. Do you agree?
Attack. At least one of them pulled a gun and may have aimed it at him. Yes, but my whole world goes back to the origins of this Rittenhouse Banana Head. What is he doing in a fellow state, which he's entered without any cause to be there at all, armed with a weapon that he bought illegally? His mother was in court. I watched her cry when the verdict came in, and I'm wondering what kind of a mother she was relative to keeping her son safe. But the fun thing about this case that you must recall, his bond was $2 million.
Right, and the fastest came through, with the money,
And
bags of money.
fascist is a good word.
That's right.
But the quality of his defense was fantastic.
It was.
People came out of the woodwork, raised lots of money because his parents didn't have, or his mother didn't have, $200,000 to get him out of jail and to provide the kind of defense that he had. This young man was made a cause. His lawyer says that's not the case. Made a cause by white people, and he was, as a result, freed because they put on a better defense than the prosecution could ever have put on.
Well, you know what startled me is that, I heard the story about him going out there and 3 people getting shot. But it wasn't until I saw some of the video that I realized that, white people actually attack people with long guns. Like, that would have never happened in Harlem. My theory is that if he had shot a black dude, that he wouldn't have been acquitted. And it's not because of the reason why most people would think that, America loves black people and we got to stop black people from getting killed. It has nothing to do with that. But I believe that black people, if you were surrounded by black people, they would not have acted that way. Because black people don't really attack people with guns. You know what I'm saying? Like, I see a crazy white dude with a gun with an AK-47 in the middle of the street. I'm walking the other way. I'll give you another example. And Ashley Babbitt, this is the white woman that was killed in the Capitol, right? She was killed climbing through a window towards a gun that was pointed at her. Now, I'm a big guy. I might be a tough guy in the streets, but when you point a gun at me, that's kind of a closed book. I closed the book on that one.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so if I'm climbing through a window and you're pointing a gun at me, that's an easy way to get me to turn around. Even if the guys behind me are like, yo, go, you gotta stop the steal. You can hype me up as much as you want.
That's the crowd mentality. Her brain left her head when she got into that mess with all of those people, and all of them were pressing forward.
Well, my point is that these people that messed with him in the street gave him a defense. Of course, a skateboard can't match an AK-47, but if you're looking for a reason to let somebody go, you're gonna use that, right? And these guys were a little bit off the hook. They were a little bit crazy. They were rioting. Not that matters, because you can't kill somebody for committing a misdemeanor. And clearly this guy was 17 years old. Kyle Rittenhouse was not a cop. He wasn't even a medic. He said he was a medic.
He had no reason to be there.
And the reason why I think this verdict was wrong. I think he did perform self-defense to a certain extent. But, he shot one of the guys 4 times. Self-defense usually doesn't work past the second bullet, right? And one of the shots was a kill shot to the back.
Yeah.
Right?
And he shot 3 people, not just one.
3. That's right.
3.
And to none of those people did he offer medical help. Well, he's carrying all his medical stuff, right? But he didn't offer medical help to the people he shot. I think that while the defense did have a great presentation, the prosecution made some mistakes. But I thought the prosecution closing argument was great. Because he's like, yeah, it was self-defense for the first shot. But there was no medical help. There was no stopping the shots. He shot the guy 4 times at one point. You know what I'm saying? Now, mind you, it was a riot, but why I can't get over that part. Why would you plant yourself in the middle of a riot? You know, they're cops.
Because you wanted to get on Fox News, which is, by the way, that's where he's going shortly.
And then more outrageous, our cops can. Hey, we're glad you're out here. If he was a black teenager, would
where
have said
were
it.
they?
No, they were there. They were
Oh, I know they
congratulating.
were there.
They
But
were
where were they?
They were too busy congratulating him for being out there, which we know was the same thing that would have happened to a black kid, right?
Of course.
Black teenager travels to another state. When cops see a gun with a black teenager, they think he's a what? A gang member, right?
At best.
I'm dealing with cases like that right
On
now.
his way to being dead.
So here you have the white people. I don't know how he can explain going to another state to look for trouble. Usually people don't like that. You know, this kid was lucky because he had a perfect storm in his favor in the courtroom. What did he have? He had a judge that didn't like the prosecution. You know, he had a judge that didn't like the prosecution, gave the prosecution all types of problems. The judge let him pick his own alternate jurors, which I've never. Have you ever seen that?
No.
You've been in the bar since 1966, sir. You've never seen a defendant pick out his own alternate jurors.
No.
And really, that was symbolic. That was a judge for the judge to do that in front of in front of everybody was him showing. It's just like my grandson. You know, I don't have no. He wouldn't let the victims be called victims in court.
Incredible.
You know,
ridiculous.
And okay, I would understand this if Kyle Rittenhouse was from Kenosha and he was like, I gotta save my streets. But he's from Illinois. There's plenty of crime in Illinois. Last time I checked, Chicago has had a lot of shootings. So I'm wondering how come he didn't just patrol his own neighborhood and stop the gang shootings?
I'm not sure that anybody explained or that I've seen from the trial testimony how this kid got up to go to
that's the
Kenosha.
thing. That wasn't made an issue. And I know why it wasn't made an issue, because freedom is such a big thing to these people, right?
Travel between the states?
Right. So he wants to make the point, like a friend of mine told me this on Facebook. He's like, well, if I'm at a party, you know, that's really dirty and stuff, I'm having a good time and someone comes at me, I can shoot them, right? It might be wrong for me at the party. I might be underage, but I can still shoot somebody for defense in self-defense. But if you look, you should never feel the obligation to go somewhere where you have to carry a gun, right?
I hope that's
like
true.
You know, like if I'm invited to Thanksgiving, right, and my family's like, "Yo, bring a gun with you. You might have to use it." I might not go, right? You know what I'm saying? So he willingly. Now, here's the funny thing. I have to correct you. He actually went around buying it illegally. He had someone else buy it from him. Because here's the loopholes in the law. He's not able to buy an AK-47, but he was able to hold one. He got around that law by having his cousin buy it and bring it across state lines for him. And he picked it up. So technically, his holding of the gun was legal, right? He did everything he could to go around that law. He found all the loopholes, right?
I don't know Wisconsin law. I can't believe that Wisconsin law allows a juvenile to be in possession of an automatic weapon. I don't think that's Wisconsin law.
Right. Well, they took away the charge about him having an illegal weapon because there was a whole bunch of technicalities, and plus he's white, so they're trying to find anybody to let him go anyway. So that helps. It definitely helps. Let me ask you a question: if same exact situation, black man, do you think it would have been a different outcome?
Black man defendant?
Yes.
Oh hell yes. There's no question about he would have been convicted of everything from failing to take a taxi to the right to shooting people. I mean, black people don't kill white people with automatic weapons
in self-defense
street and get away with it.
Well, I've never heard a black man call self-defense. Oh, he was scared me. I had to shoot him. I've actually never heard that come from a black person. So that's a good point to make. But once again, I think that look, I went to Ferguson. Remember the Ferguson riots in St. Louis? I had a wedding to go to, and I hate weddings, so I used it to go to the Ferguson riots. And it was scary. One thing that I did notice is that the whites in Ferguson were way more radical than the blacks were. I drove in front of the police department, and these people were in front of the police department chanting, just like, I was like, can you say that? They were like, oh, racist cops, blah, blah, blah. And it was all whites. And the black people were just like walking around, like, you know, some of them were looting, some of them were, you know, doing that thing. There was a lot of young people out there. And the cops that I ran to were scared. They were like, man, everyone for themselves out here. I mean, they were shaking. They were like, we don't know what's going to happen out here, whatever. And the theme that I come away from is that, generally speaking, you know, it's white radicals that really get deep into these riots. You know, they take the black cause and they keep going. And these two guys that came at Rittenhouse, I mean, one admitted to pointing the gun at him. which seems counterintuitive when a guy has an AK-47, pushing trash cans towards him, just doing things that gave him a great defense, and all these things stacked up. They had what, one black person on the jury, I think. One black person on the jury in an area where it's like 37% black.
All of that.
Um,
The vice president was heard talking about the need to revise the American criminal justice system this morning and was attacked by the press because she said that, because supposedly the president had endorsed the jury's verdict. The jury verdict is the jury verdict.
Right,
Good,
right.
bad, or indifferent, it's the jury verdict. The defense had a better group of lawyers, and they actually did fake trials with him testifying and with him not testifying.
Yeah, they had the money to do
They
that.
had the money. They
Yeah,
had
the
the
money.
money to do that, and that, as often as not, will rule the case.
The thing that I can sympathize with the jury, and here's why: because this was close, and as an attorney yourself, you know that anything close usually goes to reasonable doubt. You know what I'm saying? So if the jury went into the back and said, "Man, this is close," they technically would have gone with the defendant on that, right? Because it was close. If these guys didn't do anything, if stupid, long-haired white guy didn't throw a skateboard at him, and a skateboard in this view, when you're dealing with a 17-year-old kid, that's a deadly weapon, of course, right?
Of course.
So that's deadly. The guy was going to kick him, so he shot at that guy. The thing that kills me is that of all the people carrying guns that night, Kyle Rittenhouse is the only one that felt the need to shoot somebody.
And two of the people never got an opportunity to testify because they were dead.
And how is this objectively self-defense? I can see how it's subjectively self-defense. He was scared, right? And then all this crying on a stand. I mean, first of all,
Not a tear.
not a tear. I thought I was the only one that noticed that. I thought I was the only one that noticed that. The man didn't have one tear. It looked like a fake cry. Fine, whatever. Do what you got to do to save yourself from 40 years. I get it, right? But why are you crying on the stand when you went there? No one forced you to go to the middle of a riot.
How about that?
I was telling my friend's like, oh, well, it was self-defense, and I believe in, stand your ground. And I'm like, you know what this is like? This is like if I went to a lion's den. I went to the lion's cage and jumped in. Said, oh, look at here. I done jumped into the lion's cage again. I guess I have to kill all the lions because they're going to attack me. You know what I'm saying? I jumped into the lion's cage at the zoo, and now I have to kill all the lions because they're going to attack me, and I'm scared. You know what I'm saying?
And worst case, I'm going to be convicted of trespassing,
Right. So
but not and saving my own life.
how are you going to cry about a situation that you put yourself in? It's like I'm afraid of water and I jump in the pool. I'm like, oh my God, it was terrible. Why'd you put yourself there? Well, I had every right to be there. I didn't break the law by being there. And so law has gotten away from common sense, practicality. Like, why did you go to a place that you cried about?
And one of the real problems with cases like this is the publicity that they get, the televised issue, the whole thing. I've tried a lot of jury cases in my life. I've never allowed a camera in the courtroom. Going all the way back to, God forbid, our favorite football player.
Oh, Jay.
That was a disaster, that case. It was an unmitigated disaster.
Why don't you like videos in the courtroom? I'm curious. I'm surprised you come from that perspective because I would have thought that you'd be more transparent. But why not?
There's nothing to prevent anybody from being in the courtroom who wants to be there.
Right.
But broadcasting shows trials on television makes them a scenario that is a movie, that is not the law, that is, it raises the judge's notion about how he or she
it makes the judge into a
behave.
Judge Ito. That's what you're talking about.
Right, I'm the major domo here. I get to act however I want to act. Not a good.
Yeah, like, did you see the judge like lambasting this prosecutor? Oh, you know better than this. Leave my grandson alone. He might as well have just said, leave my grandson alone, get him out of here. Because that's how he acted.
Never been an advocate of TVs in the court.
I was actually hoping for a mistrial. I was hoping that the jury would be a hung jury because I was like, he can't get a better situation than this.
No.
So his next trial is going to be,
And the problem is we can't go back. Now
Right.
He's been acquitted. He can't be charged again at all, ever. It's double jeopardy. He's free to go and act the fool that he was in front of the national audience, and he will have it shortly.
I don't think he's going to do that. You know why? Because I think his mother knows that these right-wingers don't care about him. Like, you know what they did? They raised all this money. You know, he got robbed for a lot of that money at first by this guy Linwood and all these right winger guys.
Yeah.
He got robbed at first. His mother was like, "We got to get these people away from him." That's when they got him the good attorneys. And the biggest mistake he can make is go to George Zimmerman route. You know, like publicity or signing autographs at right wing
He's
functions.
going to do it. He's
You
gonna
think so?
Be on Fox News next, according to the news this morning.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They're gonna try to use him.
Sure, of course.
If he's smart, he won't be used though. But who knows? There's a lot of money in it for him now.
And I'm not sure he's smart. I mean, he didn't.
Yeah,
do
he's only
anything
17.
smart to get to this point.
Yeah. I mean, think about this. I guess you're right because people do things when they're desperate, and he's not going to be able to get a regular job, right?
I hope not.
His house, I mean, his name is pretty much worldwide known, you know, and some of the things he said, you know, so what he's got to do something. If you remember George Zimmerman, you know, he challenged people to fight. He tried to get publicity that way.
Yeah.
After saying on trial that he couldn't fight, I can't fight. A kid can beat me up. I never fought before in my life. He wouldn't set up like WWE events where he fought. He was trying to fight DMX at one point.
The best thing that could happen to this punk kid is he gets a job with a black woman supervisor.
Well, you know it's not over for him, right? Because there are civil cases, right?
Oh yeah.
He's going to be sued for several $1 million.
And he'll hide behind the fact that he doesn't get it. But the very best that can happen is they get judgments against him, and that's a good thing.
They will.
And they publicize that in Kenosha or wherever the hell he's from in Illinois.
Well, being civil cases, there's a lower standard of review. So you know, it's a preponderance of the evidence. It's not reasonable doubt. Chances are, if he gets sued, he will lose at least one of the cases. He's gonna get sued a lot.
And interestingly enough, if either of the victims, I'll use the word, had been black, there would be a civil rights case.
Oh yeah.
By the federal government under the
law.
I
would think so too. That's why they put we're gonna talk about Ahmaud Arbery in just a second, but Merrick Garland wasted no time in bringing charges and putting them on top of these three men.
In a minute.
I mean, and let's just think about that. There are a couple trials going on. The Ahmaud Arbery trial is going on as well. We haven't gotten a verdict in that yet, but some interesting things are happening there too. Particularly, we find out that the defendants don't want any black pastors around. You know what I'm saying? Now, that's interesting because whenever a cop gets injured, whenever any cop in America gets injured, you go to the courtroom the next day and what do you see?
Every pastor, bishop,
all you see is a
dude with a robe.
You see a sea of blue. You see a sea of blue. You damn near see the Pope. Like every cop in the next two states comes and they sit in the courtroom and intimidate the jury. But no one can stop them. They have every right to do that. The courtroom is a public place. Now,
going back to the whole issue of televising all of this, I'm assuming that comment made by his lawyer was made outside the presence of the jury. But you don't even know that.
Right.
Because what the real jury here is the American public.
Right.
Who's listening to all this baloney that these people are putting down, and in very large measure, to the extent that they are white illiberals, buying it. But I watched that lawyer talk about, I don't want this pastor in the...
You know, it's amazing because...
I don't want Jesse Jackson.
More than him saying that, I was more surprised that he felt comfortable saying that.
Yeah, it's amazing. Isn't
Could you imagine my client? I'm a criminal defense lawyer, and that's what I am in real life. And my client say he killed a cop, and me saying, you know, Judge, you know, all these cops in the courtroom, they really intimidate the jury. Can we please try to get them out? The judge would kick me. I mean, that's like almost contemptible to say, hey, a police officer can't be in the courtroom. And just say, not even just a pastor. I would have said, you know, he could have been nice. I understand a lawyer trying to defend his client because I'm a lawyer. I can understand that it have to be a little bit politically incorrect. And I do think that, you know, having Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton in the courthouse does intimidate the jury. I can understand him saying that. I don't understand him feeling comfortable enough to say it. You know what I'm saying? Like he literally said, "Black pastor. We don't want black pastor." He asked the judge to get black pastors out of the courtroom. I mean,
yeah, that takes a lot of
the gall. The gall. That's like, you know what that's like? That's like a cop pulls me over, and I tell him when he stops me, I say, you know, I pay your salary. You know, like some people do. You know. So I'm still on all of that. He didn't only say it once. He said it yesterday too. He said it the day before yesterday. Said it yesterday. And I can only think that he sees his case going down the drain.
The system can't allow that kind of baloney to go on. And to suggest that the system doesn't need fixing is contradicted specifically by conduct like that.
And let me just say, this kid is lucky he didn't go to New York.
Oh.
Most people don't like you coming into their neighborhood
Hey.
to police things. Like, you know what I'm saying? Especially, like, imagine he went to New York with an AK-47. Like, you know, there's a lot of crime up here in Harlem. I figured I'd come over from Illinois and straighten you guys out. First of all, something would happen to him, and no one would support him. No one would be like, "Hey, we're so glad you came." See, in my eyes, one of the first mistakes the prosecutor made with Rittenhouse, let's go back to Rittenhouse right quick, was having the trial in Kenosha. I think they should have removed the trial. And here's why. We're dealing with people who were kind of traumatized by this whole riot thing. Like, if you go into a Kenosha public square and say the rioters really messed up this city, a lot of people will agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when the defendants were like, well, you know, he was there to try to stop rioters, a lot of the jury was like, yeah, man, I couldn't go to work that week. They should have moved it to an area that wasn't traumatized by rioting.
You got to get the judge's permission.
That's true.
It's very
That's true.
tricky.
You do have to get the judge's permission, but they should have at least tried. I think part of it was that these jurors were not sympathetic to the defendants.
For the makeup of the jury to be what it was just criminal, as it were.
Well, I mean, it's funny. Judges are even saying that now. I played 2 weeks ago at the opening of the Ahmaud Arbery trial. The judge actually said, this appears discriminatory.
Oh, yeah. and well, he should have.
I had to slap his hand for that. I was like, oh, that's the first time I actually heard a judge admit. He was like, this jury seems discriminatory to me, but there's nothing he could do, he said. And to me, that was just covering his ass. You know, it's like, oh, well.
But it's pretty daring for a judge to say that.
Right. And so
it's got a lot of publicity.
Yeah, you wonder if there's going to be an appeal out of that. But this case with Ahmaud Arbery is going way better than Rittenhouse's.
It's going fantastically well. I only wish that the outcome is as appropriate as it ought be.
Well, I can just say this. You know, Ahmaud Arbery is dead, and he's dead for no good reason. But actually, that's not the thing that outrages me the most. The thing that outrages me the most is that they killed him on the street, and the cops were like, okay, so you go ahead and go home now. We'll give you a call later on. Is that cool?
They knew where he was because he was a former cop.
My experience being a black guy that grew up in Harlem, who's been arrested before, is that you can't kill anything in the streets and walk home. You can't even kick a dog in the street. These days, if I was to go outside of the station right now and start kicking a dog in the middle of the street, within 30 minutes, somebody would have me arrested. And I wouldn't just be able to walk out of the station. Some pet lover is going to be like, yo, you need to get this guy. I'll be all over. I'll be viral. I'll be all over YouTube. People will have my job, whatever. These guys chased down and shot a black. They've released the autopsy photos in the trial. And there's a big hole in this man's chest. Mm-hmm. While he was laying on the ground dying, one of the Travis McMichael called him the N-word. You're laying on a hard ground surrounded by enemies, cops looking down at you, and you get called the N-word as you're dying.
And their defense is they were making a citizen's arrest
for a crime that they didn't witness, which is really weird.
There's no evidence of a crime having been committed.
You and I both went to law school, albeit decades apart. And when I learned in law school is that citizen's arrests do exist, but you have to kind of see the crime. You can't be like,
you could be the victim. You could be the victim's
right.
neighbor standing right there watching you.
Right.
You can't be somebody who comes on the scene in your vehicle and boxes the defendant in.
You can't be like,
so
they were literally working in their yard. Absolutely. And they saw a guy running by and they were like, hey, that looks like the criminal that was trespassing on my neighbor's yard. Didn't even take anything from them. That looks like the guy that, so let's get our pickup truck and speed after him with a shotgun and find out. Then they're wondering, they approach him and they say, you know, can we talk to you for a minute? Like they have some kind of authority.
Yeah,
oh yeah.
I used to be a cop.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Don't you remember me from when I was a cop? You know what I'm saying? Hey guys, stop jogging and doing what you're doing because we have guns and we're gonna ask you some questions as if they have some kind of authority. You know, whatever.
We can only hope that all of this stuff that's being put out in the press that is causing these people to be concerned, these white people, will fix itself on the jury's mind and that they'll be convicted, because we should not celebrate the stupidity of this case yet because there's no verdict yet.
Well, I would be very surprised if they got off scot free.
Well, I mean, but I've been surprised before.
We've been over this, and you are 81 years old, so you've seen a lot more. You've seen a lot more than I have.
I had a murder case where my kid was desperately innocent, and after 3 days of a jury verdict consideration, he was convicted.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I'm learning as a new criminal defense attorney about Connecticut in particular. They don't pay heavy respect to insanity. Not many courts do.
It's a tough one.
They'd rather put you in jail. You know, they'd rather they in America, what we do with our insane people, with our mentally ill people, we throw them in jail because that's good for them. And especially Connecticut, you got to be like slobbering over yourself and cutting yourself up in order for them to acknowledge that you have mental illness. It's amazing. It's amazing. But I would be very surprised if these Ahmaud Arbery killers got away.
I don't think they have the quality of defense that the Rittenhouse kid did.
Well, you know what? They have a harder story. They have a harder story.
Terrible story.
They have a much harder story. This was in broad daylight. And then the idea that they got to walk away. I mean, that's just like, I don't get to walk away from cops for traffic stops. You know what I'm saying?
It didn't look like they were going to be arrested at all until the papers or the people put forth the real story.
They had to indict.
Yeah, right.
They indicted one of the DAs because she actually told other police officers, don't arrest these guys. I know them.
She's gone. Thank
you. Yeah. Oh, Jesus. This is not in Mississippi. This is in Georgia, which is supposed to be a couple of steps ahead of Mississippi. We all know Mississippi, what that's about, right? But this is in Georgia. And, the idea that you can check, I'm still outraged by this whole thing. And the fact that they weren't even going to charge these guys. You know what? If one of the guys is the ones that took the video, I'm actually on the borderline as to whether he should be charged or not. Because he took the video. If he didn't take the video, he was calling him an N-word and stuff like that. But if he didn't take that video.
He boxed him in with his truck.
Yeah. But if he didn't take that video, these guys would have gotten away.
Well, he may still get away.
Yeah, right. You're very cynical about this, I see.
No, he's asked to have his trial separated from the other two. That ain't gonna happen anymore.
Well, he didn't do
it now.
Well, he didn't shoot any guns. He didn't tell the guys to get guns. We got to give him some credit for taking the video and handing it over. Think about it. I know that it was my friends that were in trouble like this. I wouldn't have done it, but I would have at least thought. There were people who at least thought about just erasing that video. If he would have erased that video, we would have no trial. We'd have nothing. They might have got arrested, but they would have been able to say, well, he's a black man. He's running. Duh.
The best we could hope for would be that there would be a federal prosecution and the kind of investigation that the feds could do.
Yeah, you're right.
Cause the truth to such as
because without a video, these dudes would have came in the club and say, yo, black man running, what else do you need? You know what I'm saying?
White neighborhood.
He wasn't our neighborhood. We didn't recognize. Look, we have a video of him going into someone's house. Now, I didn't know this, but that's normal for suburban neighborhoods. For them to walk into the neighbor's house when there's construction being done. I've heard a lot of people talk about this. But when your neighbor's having construction, it's an open house, a lot of people walk in. That's not a crime, technically, if you're not stealing anything. It could be considered trespassing, okay, but it's not the kind of crime that a citizen arrest can be made for, right? Unless you're the actual homeowner.
According to the homeowner in this case,
nothing was stolen.
Several people have been doing just exactly that. I find that interesting.
Yeah. I hear, from what I heard this on Morning Joe, in fact, they actually showed during the trial, like young kids going into the house, teenagers with bikes. And they were like, you didn't chase them down. They were from the neighborhood. They were recognizable, whatever.
Take advantage of that if you're the prosecution.
But
talk about the distinction between this goer inner and this goer inner.
Look at the bastardization of self-defense, though. Self-defense is supposed to be, I'm in my home with my family. I got a gun here to protect them. You came in. I got to defend my family. It's not, hey, you're in a dangerous part of the neighborhood. And I don't like you, so I'm going to go over there.
Right.
Get you to attack me. And then, oh, my God, I had to kill him. So this is where we're going with self-defense. And let me just add that the Republican Party in general, they champion this guy, Rittenhouse. Absolutely. They champion these Travis McMichael guys. They're about lies and violence these days, aren't they?
The world, this country's part of the world, went to hell in a handbasket when Trump got elected. Because the man has no morals. His only ideal in life is to cause people he doesn't like of whatever color or trade to be put down, made to look bad. He's a beast. He's a crazy politician.
Yeah, but
Not even a politician.
there was a book, and we almost went on a time. I didn't even know it was 10:56. Isn't it something when you get deep in the conversation, you don't know when time is passing by? So, we don't have time for another segment, but I do. I want to say this. Um, I wonder. There's this Republican that came out with a book called "It Was All a Lie," and that's my best explanation for Trump. Why do I say that? Because "It Was All a Lie" is the best explanation for where the Republican Party is now. Remember, they used to be the party of family values.
Hey,
Lincoln,
Lincoln,
law and
Party of
order.
Lincoln.
They used to make us feel bad
Yeah.
as Democrats because we got divorces and we wanted people to have freedom of choice to have abortions. They used to make us feel bad because we didn't go to church enough or because we didn't, salute the flag. These are people who wanted, you have this football player that didn't take his shot, and he's saying he's being blacklisted. He's saying this a year or two after Colin Kaepernick was really blacklisted.
Oh yeah,
was really blacklisted. A capable player that wasn't allowed to play ball because of his feelings on kneeling for the national anthem.
I've been a San Francisco 49er fan for 30 years, and that whole mess with the NFL and Colin Kaepernick was just an unmitigated disaster. They treated him like crap. And I'm so thrilled that he's got a career.
Yeah, he got paid. He got his money from the NFL. He got $6 million from Nike, so he's not gonna have to work anymore. But Toni Morrison said this best. I always think about this. Racism has a very serious purpose, and that's to distract us, to keep us explaining why we are here, why we are here to be. And when I mentioned this book, It Was All a Lie. I'm thinking about all the Reagans, all these times when Republicans held themselves up. But at the very bottom of it, is this vitriol for people not like them, for people not in their club, for their own. They want their own privilege so much they feel it's threatened. They attack. You know what I'm saying? They're not really for equality. They want the status quo.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And they have just think about how vicious racism is. Someone holding it against your skin color, something that you can't even choose. You don't choose your skin color. You don't choose your parents. You don't choose your lot in life. You know what I'm saying? So how could someone hate you for that? It's just baffling. And for all these years, you remember the crack epidemic with Reagan when he talked about welfare queens and all that stuff. All that stuff came from the same place that it's coming from now. Absolutely. It's not just Trump. It was always there.
Yes, well, it goes back to the origins of black people in this country. You didn't start out equal. You started out as property.
Right. I always tell people this country was made as a safe haven for white men, and we have to get off. But and it's hard to change from that. It wasn't made like they didn't come here saying we're going to make it equal for black people too. They said, oh, this is a safe haven for us. We're going to have some slaves. We're going to make some money. We're going to build some things, and that's how it's always going to be.
They didn't have the sense to give the vote to their own mothers, aunts, and sisters.
Civil rights wasn't part of the plan of this whole thing, and that's what we're going through now. That's what we're going through now. You have to have an understanding of history, and I know that you remember when things were much worse.
I do.
I know. So things are getting better. We're going to have to go now, folks. We talked our way into the end of the show. We didn't even have time for a third segment, which is a good thing because that means that we had a lot of important things to say. Please see us again in 2 weeks. What do I want to say to people? I want you to know that there are other people who are responsible for putting the show on. Got to say shout out to Alex Sanchez, Joe Duncan, Deborah Leonza Abram, all the people that help us with this show. Thanks for Attorney John Rawls for coming in today. This won't be the last time you hear from him. I'm kind of hoping to have him and Dr. Mack in 2 weeks or something like that. We'll be talking about that. But thanks so much for listening. With Nothing Without You. Hey, I want a fair fight out there. Let's have a fair fight. Let's try not to kick each other in the balls. Have a good day. I hope you enjoyed yourself.
Okay, man.
I know you're tired.
Great job.
Say hello for me.
I will.
Okay, let me just turn this off. Oh, you can go ahead and leave. We'll talk on the phone. I'll give you a call and thank you, all right? I know you must be hungry.
I got my breakfast sitting on the front seat of my car.
Thank you so much. I'll send it to you today. Okay? To that email address. You want it? Okay. And then you can send it to whoever. I'm going to pack up and I'll speak to you in about an hour or so. I gotta go take a nap. I hope you had a good time. want to send one to Mac too. I spoke to him this morning.
I'm gonna see him in a few minutes.
Oh yeah?
Yeah,
Oh, y'all gonna have breakfast?
yeah, we have a friend who just went to the hospital. We're gonna go visit him.
Oh, he's in the hospital right now?
No, our